This is Dr. Blake Jones, and thank you so much for joining us today on the Guided Podcast. I'm just delighted to welcome my friend of many years, Ouita Michel, to sit down with me this morning. Ouita, we've known each other for a really long time. It's rare that we get to sit down and talk because we're both very busy, and so I'm so grateful for you to take your time out just to come and have this conversation with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. So you are well known in restaurant circles. I mean, that's the understatement of the year. And so I could go on, we could spend this whole time talking about all of your accolades and the things that you've done in the restaurant community in Central Kentucky. But I have a quick Ouita Michel story to start us out. You're going, what is he going to talk about? So the way that I got introduced to you was through the Holly Hill Inn when we moved to Midway in 2001. And you used to have something called like hamburger hootenannies. That's what it was, yeah. And I thought, I've heard about this place. I'm going to go over and just try a hamburger. And we came over and did that. And I went back and told my wife, I said, that is literally the best hamburger I've ever, it was just a hamburger, but it was so delicious. And then I met you, and I knew then that you had a really, really special gift around cooking but as I've known you over the years, I've seen your other gifts about people and the people that you care for in your business. So just tell our audience a little bit about your background, if you could.
Well, I grew up in Lexington, and you met me in 2001. I mean, this year we're celebrating our 25th anniversary at Holly Hill Inn. That was our first year of operations, and that hootenanny was our very first big event that you came to. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, very cool.
That is really neat. And I've got a small group of restaurants in the area, and we focus on farm to table and scratch cooking. So we try to buy as many local ingredients as we can find and afford, and we make them we make all the food by hand, with the exception of French fries in some locations. But Smithtown makes all their French fries. Everybody else, they have to use frozen. But other than that, we have a very simple food philosophy, and we try to provide the best meals that we can. And even more than that, we really believe in hospitality, which for me is part of who I am. I think that's what I really love about it all. Cooking is part of hospitality for me, which just means to make everyone feel welcome in your presence and to really try to connect with people and to see them and to take care of them. And that's what I hopefully charge all of our team members to do, and I try to do myself.
Yeah. I every time I walk into one of your restaurants, I feel that, and I feel the love that's put into not just the food, but just the welcoming of people that are coming in there to gather. Yeah. I want to ask you, you and I are going to talk a little bit about mental health in the culinary world and in food service. And I want to ask you about the kitchen experience. I've seen the kitchen at Holly Hill Inn. I mean, just kind of walking by it. Of course, I've watched some shows and things like that. But a kitchen can be a very stressful place, right? And I wonder if you could just give us sort of an insider's view of what a kitchen like at a Holly Hill Inn or someplace like that looks like.
The kitchen at Holly Hill Inn is very unique because it has 9 windows. It's an old house. It was the original kitchen to the home. So it's the least stressful, I think, because of the outside being such a big player in the role of the kitchen. We have big gardens, windows, a back deck. All of those things really help. A kitchen at a restaurant like Honeywood has no windows. And that can really, I think, add to the stress of the work environment. Now, Honeywood has big out-facing windows, so we're lucky in that way. But kitchens are high-pressure environments because we're trying to get your food to you, and we want it to be delicious. We want it to be quick, or at least timed right. It's a lot of hard work. It requires a lot of cleaning. and cooking itself is hard. I mean, physically hard. It's joyful. It can be joyful, but it can also be really, really stressful. And sometimes we forget it's just supper. It's not brain surgery. It's not cancer. It's just supper. And sometimes the guest can forget that too. Like, okay, let's all take a step back. This is just a piece of fried catfish, whatever it is.
Right.
But that's one of the things I think that honestly that drew me to the kitchen. I love the adrenaline of it. I really enjoy cooking, and I love physical labor. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't think. I think sometimes in our country we have an idea of like a white collar versus a blue collar career. I think in my life I've been very, very lucky to have a lot of physical labor and food gives me the opportunity to do all the research and speaking and communications and stuff that I like about it too. Writing.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the restaurant industry and kind of, we're here to talk about things like burnout and substance abuse and mental health struggles. What makes the restaurant industry susceptible to those things?
Well, restaurants are a gateway employer, so we have a lot of. Traditionally, restaurants are one of the places where you don't have to have a huge resume to get a job. And so if you want a job washing dishes or bussing tables, it involves a lot of manual dexterity and physicality, and a good work ethic and stuff like that. But it doesn't require a high school diploma necessarily or a college diploma. Different jobs in the restaurant have different requirements. And so because of that, and the other thing that's great about a restaurant, which I love, is you can start in one place as a dishwasher, as a young person, and end up after a few years of working in a very different place. One of our top managers started with me at 15 at Holly Hill Inn, and now he is sort of the second in command over all the restaurants. And he's a great guy. And college isn't for everyone. People who learn by doing, they can really succeed in restaurants. But what that can mean is that we have a lot of employees who are struggling when they come into the company. So they may be in recovery. They may be recently in recovery or just past a substance abuse disorder incident, like a DUI, maybe briefly in jail because of that, or something like that. We have employees that struggle with those issues.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
When they come in, and then you're involved in a stressful job environment. And if it's not an environment where people can like kind of help you along and what I say, smooth out your rough edges and help you find the positive things about your job and your life, then you can easily go back into that cycle. And sometimes we do lose those people. I mean, that they can't work for us and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, over my career, I've worked with lots of restaurant workers, and you have this thing where you work really hard. A lot of times you work late into the night.
Exactly.
A lot of times you get paid in cash money at the end of the night. So you're exhausted, really exhausted physically, mentally. You have a pocket full of cash. So what do? We all go out and drink.
That's really true. And so there's a culture of having a shift beer. We stopped doing that in our company because it never did us any good, and I realized it was just perpetuating a particular kind of culture. All of that's true. That's not true for kitchen employees. They don't walk home with a pocket full of cash, but they can walk home exhausted and spent. And one of the things that's really important is that, and what we've tried to do, but in the restaurant industry, there can be a lot of dehumanizing employment policies. And a lot of times in the past, this is not true today, I don't think, or I think it's changing. People were seen as sort of expendable, So when you feel expendable in a place, like nothing you really do matter, that just adds to the exhaustion and the mental fatigue. But if you feel a part of a team and a part of a group and supported in the work that you do, then you feel less that way or less frequently that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I was getting ready for this conversation with you and reading an article about a pretty high level chef who has gotten in a lot of trouble
Oh,
for
Renee.
physically
Yeah.
abusing
hmm
employees and
I couldn't believe
pushing
some of
them.
those
And yeah,
stories I was reading.
yeah, that's awful. But there's this sort of perfectionistic and high performance at the high end
Yeah.
kitchens, right? And you trained in New York. I mean, you know
hmm
all of this, but does that perfectionism drive stress in restaurants?
It does, but I've never been a perfectionist.
Hmm.
So I've never wanted to strive for perfection, but I also always want to be excellent. So
Hmm.
I am I feel like I've always worked for that, but the perfection that you're looking the stratification of our society is one thing, right? And you
Hmm.
see it invading industries, and it's really prevalent in the restaurant industry. So we eat more meals out of the home than we've ever eaten in our entire society, in our entire time. And you have restaurants at the very top like Noma, which is the restaurant you're talking about,
Hmm.
where the chef bullied interns that were essentially working for him for free, and he was
Yeah.
the number one restaurant in the world for many
Right.
years.
Hmm.
But it costs, $1,250, $1,500, $2,000 a person to eat there.
Hmm.
Well, you know, dinner at the Holly Hill Inn is $75. It's like a little different. And our job, we see, is to care for people. And I think in restaurants like that, I really appreciate those restaurants.
Hmm.
It's more like an artistic expression of the chef, an artistic experience curated for the guest.
Hmm.
And that's never who I've been.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thankful for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, just walking into like the Holly Hill Inn is peaceful. It's a peaceful, beautiful experience. It's a beautiful place, but then just eating
Yeah.
the food, which is, I mean, you put some thought and some work into
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but it's also farm to table. It's very Kentucky,
Yeah.
and yeah. I want to ask you about compassionate leadership because
Mm.
you've really done that in your company. We've talked about the struggles of people with mental health. I know that you've had some experience with suicide and some other
Mhm.
mental health, substance abuse issues, as all restaurateurs do. Um, what does compassionate leadership look like for you? Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I think it was driving down the road one day and NPR was on. There was some show about this that if you cannot express care and concern at the top of an organization, no one's empowered to show that throughout the organization. So as the leader, you have to see people, express your care and concern for them in order for everyone to feel okay about it. So, for the last 5 years, since 2020, or 6 years at this point, I feel like that's really what I've been practicing on doing, really trying to work on myself
Mhm.
so that I'm not expressing anger, frustration, my own negative emotions are in check,
Mhm.
meditate a lot, um, and also make sure I'm constantly trying to make sure that the people around me know how to get to me, but also that our general managers understand that I support them, that their job is to support their teams.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's vital, I think, in any organization for
Mhm.
the leader to demonstrate that if you want to have a system of support throughout the whole company. Because there's no way I can individually support every single member every day. Now, if they have a crisis, I'm likely to be involved.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you and I were talking off air about it's really creating a culture, and
Mhm.
culture is hard. Cultural change is
Mhm.
difficult, and it's you have to have the long view of it. It's not just sort of like, well, here's a pamphlet, or here's a referral, here's a number you can call, but it's really creating that space of like it's okay to not be okay, and to
Yeah.
share that with
Mhm.
someone who's above you, right?
Yeah.
And that you're not going to be stigmatized by that, but you're going to be helped,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. I have a secret weapon in my sister, who's a licensed clinical
Hmm.
social worker, and I call on her a lot
Yeah.
to help me. To help me personally, I find her just a great sounding board.
Hmm.
One of the things that just struck me, so I I have a team. I don't want to say the name of the restaurant, but I'm going around to all of our restaurants right now and really meeting with people and trying to lift them and connect. And at this particular restaurant, we had lost an employee to suicide about a year ago, maybe a little more than that. And I realized the manager that we had there at the time, they came over to me in Midway. They came to find me when this news came through, and they just broke down. And then after an incident like that, we bring in professional people, and we gather the whole team together, and I let the professionals lead the discussion, but I'm always there. I participate too. Yeah. And I just realized that they broke down because they don't have any way of really expressing themselves, and their managerial style was the same. Like, this is just business. And that really struck me, and I'm still dealing with that. That person has since left our company in a good way. I mean, very successful. But I'm still navigating that at that location, that it's just business mentality. And that's something we grow up with, especially young men. And it puts them so out of touch with real communication. Yeah.
I got called one time, it's been years ago, to a business where an employee had come in the morning and had killed themselves in the office, basically.
Gosh.
And I was called in. They happened in the morning, and I was called in later in the morning, and they were sort of cleaning things up, and it was a sort of a call center place, and they said, come in and talk to our employees, but also they're going to go back to work at about 1:00, like right in the place where their colleague had killed themselves. And I was like, how awful is this? Like, I get that businesses have to run, restaurants kind of never close down, but man, just that human compassion of that traumatic experience. How do we allow people to grieve and process that trauma?
I think COVID taught me that restaurants can close down.
Right.
For a minute.
Yes.
They can shut down. You can shut down for an afternoon.
Yeah.
It means everything. So, and we have had this happen to us 4 times where we've lost a staff member or employee to suicide. And we usually don't jump right back into operations. Now, we may not be able to have afforded to close down for a long time, but it's usually at least an afternoon or a day, just to give everyone a moment.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to come back from, but you have to engage. You can't pretend like it didn't happen.
Sure. And that's the cultural element of like that we talk about. It's okay if you're struggling, if you're having a bad day. There's people that you can talk to, and we support you in that. You don't have to stuff it down and just gut it out. And what you were saying about young men, especially, I work a lot with them around, and first responders are terrible at just stuffing things down. So I'm a follower of Stoicism. I consider myself a Stoic, but Stoicism doesn't mean it doesn't mean stuffing. That's a different thing. Right. It means perseverance and like flourishing in adversity, but it doesn't mean, withholding communication or not checking in with yourself and all that kind of stuff, which I see all the time. Yeah. So you've kind of been on this personal journey, you said, for a few years of self-care, and what kind of led you to that?
Well, I think since during the shutdown, the easiest thing that happened during COVID was getting shut down. That was actually kind of nice in a way, once we got government support. But the hardest thing was grappling with all the changes that have come after that. And young people really, really they've taken a hit. And so I realized that in order for me to be able to have the kind of company that I wanted to have and the staff that I needed to have, I had to be in a position to be able to support them emotionally in a lot of ways. And so I had to think, and I also felt under a lot of stress. So and I still do. I still am under a lot of stress. But I guess over time, I've just gotten a lot better at dealing with it. So I write in journals. I would list writer and a journal writer basically daily. I am a faithful person, so I'm a member of a church, and that religious, whatever your spiritual path is, I think it's vital to have one, and can be whatever you're choosing. So that helps me a lot, process a lot of negative emotions in my life. And then I meditate every day. I usually meditate twice a day, once in the morning and then once as I go to sleep. And when I don't do that, I know it. And I use a guided meditation. So that might be meditation light, but it just helps me. And so if it helps me, I do it. And I had some health problems last year. I had breast cancer. So it took me out of my gym for a little bit, but I'm ready to go back to the gym. I think next week is my first week back. So that really helps me. Exercise, just the simple stuff that everybody always tells you really helps.
Yeah, it does. Well, Ouita, kind of wrapping up here, if you could just kind of speak directly to every, we've got all kinds of people who watch this, and my hope is that a lot of people in the industry will be watching this as well, and I know that you'll share it with them. And if you could just kind of say one thing to them about mental health and balance and self-care, what would you say?
One thing is hard, but I would say that the work that you're doing is so vital to our society. And what you're doing, and that work is welcoming people in and making them feel cared for. That's what the restaurant industry is really all about. It's not really about fast food. It's really about welcoming people in. And even if you are in a fast food restaurant, you can still do that. You can still make people feel welcome and that you're happy to see them. And that's a very difficult thing to do all the time. And it can drain you. So it's important that you're filling yourself up outside of work with all different kinds of things, even if it's a walk around the block or a meditation time, or I just want them to know that I appreciate every employee in Lexington and the surrounding area that goes into making our restaurants run, all different kinds of restaurants. And you're vital to our community, you're vital to our society, even though people may not be telling you that. So take good care.
Yeah, that's great. And we do want to mention the suicide prevention number, which is 988, that people can call. I also really like the crisis text line. A lot of my clients use that, and they can text 24 hours a day and just sort of chat with somebody about how they're feeling, and that's been very helpful.
That is super helpful because for young people, they feel more comfortable communicating that way.
Yeah.
And it's also, when you're communicating on the text line, one thing I'd like about it, this was a personal experience. I mean, I wasn't the one texting, but one of my staff members was, and they could go back to the phone and reread what was the dialogue. And that can be very helpful to someone to have that little record.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that number is 741-741. And that's the crisis text line, and you can just text and chat.
Yeah.
Ouita, I want to thank you just for your friendship and your presence in my life all these years. I'm so inspired by you.
Well,
I really mean that, and I love you, and just so appreciative of the way you support our community in Midway and just Central Kentucky, and the way that you've led in this area. This is so important. To take care of people's mental health, and you do that with such care, and I just appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Blake Jones.
Well, thank you for joining us today on the Guided Podcast, and we wish you well along your way.